Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I'm really excited about today's guest, Sara Freeman Smith. She's a native Houstonian as well, and she's a speaker, author. She's also a advocate, disability advocate, helping individuals find their purpose in their life through different avenues. We're going to talk about her remarkable story, journey, her fantastic energy, and I'm happy to welcome her to the show. So, welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much. I am looking so much forward to talking with you and your audience. Thank you.
Yeah. So I know your story, but tell people your story and how you turned that into a positive and how you do the work that you're doing today.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, basically, I have always been in the HR recruiting field all of my life. My mom used to tease me and says I was recruiting kids on playground in kindergarten. So I just love helping put people in the right place. So I started my career shortly after college in the recruiting capacity. I always wanted to help individuals, especially in underserved markets. So I was working for a staffing firm in the Houston area at the time, and I would go out and recruit individuals in the inner cities and underserved areas where traditionally they never had opportunities to know that there were job opportunities. And we happened to work where we could send individuals as temporaries. And then oftentimes, if they did a good job, they would be hired full time. But what we learned is oftentimes if you sent the resume in just based on their overall background, they wouldn't have ever considered hiring them. So it was kind of like a lease with an option to buy. So I had great success in helping people understand, you have to have the right frame of attitude, you have to have the right dress, the right mindset, and also just, basic office, etiquette principles and things of that nature, and do a really good job. And people will recognize and they would give them that opportunity. So people encouraged me to write a book about sharing my personal testimony and how I went about encouraging people to realize their true value. And that was about 25 years ago. And I loved speaking at the time, but it was an up and down kind of cyclical business. So feast or famine. So I got back into a full-time corporate recruiting role about 25 years ago and was climbing corporate ladder of success, as they say, and was getting great promotions, but suddenly began to lose my vision.
Mhm.
And I was thinking, well, maybe it's a sign I'm getting up midlife, mid-career. Go and have my eyes checked. And the optometrist at the time said, hey, you were here just 7 months ago, but there is a dramatic vision loss. So immediately sent me to some specialists over at the University of Houston. And after numerous tests, I was given the devastating news that it was an autoimmune condition. So I don't need to tell you genetic. And unfortunately, there was no cure, that it was autoimmune retinopathy, as a matter of fact. And all they could do is attempt to slow down the total loss, but ultimately it would lead to total blindness. So this was about 20 years ago. And of course, I had a major pity party because I'm an active community volunteer, career woman, I'm a mother, wife. And what am I going to do if I lose my vision? So, like most people, that's devastating. And I have to admit, it took me a minute to process. But what I kept saying to myself was, I'm crying out, and I'm a very strong faith-based person. God, why me? Why me? I'm doing all these things. I'm, helping in the church and the community. Why me? Why would I have to lose? And clearly this voice spoke to me. And I know to this day it had to be God. And the voice was, why not you, Sarah? Or you know better than anyone else not to go through trials and suffer. Let's go to Texas Children's Hospital and start from the infant area, and let's walk down some halls. Some people would give their life, their arm, their legs, anything to have what you are today with just a little less vision. So that helped me put me in a better perspective and a mindset. And I said, okay, so if I do lose my vision, am I going to sit here and be, determined, let this determine my circumstances? And unfortunately, I'm not that type of person. I'm not a quitter. So as I tell people, I went from a pity party to a propel party. And at that moment, I had to figure out, now, what am I going to do to continue to do what I know is my passion and what I've been called to do, and that was helping people find jobs. So that at that point started me on my career to just say, hey, not only can I do this sighted, but I'm gonna have to figure out how to do it with less sight. And of course, my vision continued to diminish till I suddenly had to use a lot of accessibility tools, screen readers. I have to use a cane to get around. I use adaptive devices on my phone if someone hands me documents. I had to ask for accommodations, but it was successful. I worked for companies that allowed me to have those additional accommodations to continue to work. And now I'm sharing that with other people. Don't let your circumstances determine your destiny or your situation. You do not have to be defined by that, but you do need to ask for help and know how to ask for it. And so that's what started me on my journey to today, to becoming that disability advocate.
Yeah, very profound and very powerful. I've had moments where kind of a intuition or this higher power voice
Mm-hmm.
and kind of that either soothes or consoles or kind of guides me, which is really. And I love your how you turned you overcoming adversity to empower others. So one thing
Mm-hmm.
is in finding purpose through change, and you laid out in your book Turning Stones into Gems. Share how the principles laid out in that book have personally guided you through your transformation from a corporate leader
Mm-hmm.
to a passionate advocate.
Oh, great question. Absolutely. It was so funny. I mean, again, I wrote my first edition 25 years ago and then just recently released this third edition late last year. And suddenly I had to sit and go, Sarah, you're going to have to take a dose of your own medicine. You know that, don't you? So, and the basic fundamental principles, I would say, could be encapsulated in 4 R's, as I call them. The first is the reflecting mode. And that's where, again, when I'm sitting or when anyone is given devastating news, it's just normal nature to just want to wallow and go, oh, oh my God, I don't want to even get you depressed. And for something like vision loss, I mean, this is a form of grieving. And the grieving is going through steps. But the reflecting portion is to take that quiet time. And sometimes we have to get off that merry-go-round. And the only way to do that is to knock us off our feet. And I had nothing else to do but to sit and digest. I'm going, I can't believe a simple thing is, can't you just give me some, increased vision power in my glasses? Can't you do some surgery? Can't you just give me a pill, some drops? But no, none of that would work. And I had to take that time to reflect on my inside. And that's that inner being, that quiet time, and saying, now you are still who you are. I was no less Sarah, but just because I couldn't see, did that make me less of who I already knew that I was? So that reflection is that quiet time, whether it's meditation, whether for me it was prayer, it was solace. I sat on my patio and I just don't listen to all the noise. I'm not a big social media person, but for some people, if that's it, and not on the TV, but just being still to say, okay, this is my current situation. Reflect. Now, what do I know that I want to do? And what do I know that I'm really good at about doing? And how do I go about doing it? And just be still and wait for those answers. And that was the hard part for me, to tell you the truth, because it was like, I am so impatient. So that was one of the first lessons, being still and reflect. And then the next R, which is the most difficult, is called refining. And that's about looking at your current circumstances, understanding where I was today. Did I have the kind of support that I needed? Was I going to be able to get encouragement from friends and family, people at work? Or was it just the opposite, where people were going to say, go sit in the corner, Sarah, go collect disability, and just we'll do stuff for you? And sometimes that means changing your circumstances, getting out of toxic environments as well as toxic people, And so that refining process, we know what that means. That means burning, churning. And, again, I used to work for an oil and gas company. So you know what a refining is, a lot of heat and distillation. Well, it's a lot of ugliness. It's shedding away that outer luggage and baggage that holds us back. And that's what I had to sit. And there were a few people that weren't supportive. They were going, oh my God, what are you going to do? I don't need anyone to help put me down. I can do that all by myself. I need people that could encourage me and say, hey, get up, and suddenly go contact those support groups. Get out and find out what other people that are blind and visually impaired are doing. And that was so amazing to me. So it is a learning about your surroundings, and that's that planning process. That's sitting down and saying, I need to get rid of this. This is where I'm going. This is the direction that I'm going. And then the next portion is what I call reinvention, or reinventing myself, because that's when I had to say, I'm still the same Sarah, but I can't do the things that I used to do because I don't have some of my vision. So in inviting others to be somewhat of a support for me, again, being a recruiter, it's important that when people come in, did they look professional? Were they dressed professional? Was the resume properly formatted? Well, I had a quick workaround. I just had some of my staff say, hey, why don't you come out and introduce yourself to the person that I'm getting ready to interview? And then afterwards, tell me were they appropriately dressed. Take a quick scan. I can read the resume, but I can't tell if it's laid out properly. So those were simple things, but being able to learn how to reinvent myself and say, I need to allow that extra time, but I can still do it, but I just need a little bit extra. And the last part is, once I reinvented and figured out I can still be who I am, get up and get off that couch and do it. Stop talking and start doing. So many people will say what they're going to do, but they never, ever follow through. And that's the rebooting. That's like you reboot your computer, you punch that button, you hear that churning, and bam, when it's on, put those sneakers on and take off. And that's exactly what I had to do. And I just started incorporating as much help and support that I could possibly garner. And that's how I got off my pity party.
I love that. I love there's two points to your answer that really resonated. And the first one was like it's kind of like just execute mode, and it doesn't take any thought. You just get up and you do it. Just go through it, even if you have to go through the motion. And then one question I have is kind of playing devil's advocate, is because sometimes I like to reflect, and sometimes in some of the hardest times, and I'll ask for answers, either intuition or whatever, and it's just it's silent, and it's like when I don't need answers, they come, but when I really need answers, there's none. So what I'm sure you've encountered that. What do you?
I did. A wonderful, wonderful question, because that was one of my biggest lessons I had to learn. And again, and this may not be for everyone, but I can tell what worked for me. And again, having a strong faith-based foundation, I knew that silence did not necessarily equate to no. Delay does not necessarily mean denial. It is about God's timing for me versus my timing. And now you have to admit, we are I want this right now kind of society, right? Everything is microwave. It's like, okay, I know I need to have this done by such and such. And okay, today's Wednesday, so Friday. So what's the problem? I need it now. I need it now. I need it now. I need it now. So what I had to understand is, if I truly believed that I was following through with the plans, or there was a plan that I wanted to do versus was I asking. And this is where I made a huge mistake. I thought of things that I wanted to do, and they made perfectly logical, good sense to me at that time. But then I had to stop when I was in that reflective mode, and God spoke clearly to me, Sarah. Well, if you could think of something to do, you don't need me. So go ahead and follow through. Let me know how that works out. Think about it. If you could think it up, and if we truly believe in a higher being, a supreme being, that there is no way we could possibly fathom what he has in store. But when he does give it to us, That's when I got the answer finally in silence and says, are you ready? Because a lot of times we really weren't still, even though you thought you were still. That brain was still churning. Okay, all right, well, if I don't hear back from this company, I have this other backup, and I'm gonna call Dr. Lou, and he has a hookup. And you know how we're anticipating.
Yeah.
Then you're still not still. It's like you're still working behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Either you give it to me totally and leave it alone and wait for me to give you that answer. And when we were growing up, what did our parents sometimes say? Let me think about it. I'm going to talk to your dad. I'm going to talk to your mom about it, and I get back to it. And we're going, oh my God, how hard can that be? Can't you just give me that answer right now?
Oh.
So they were working behind the scenes. And that's what I had to learn. That silence wasn't that nothing was happening, but it was not my timing, because I had already plotted it out. So then when that answer came, what I knew, and this was my confirmation, it was like, Sarah, you're going to write this book, or Sarah, you're going to go and speak before people that you don't even know, and they're going to be blessed and encouraged. And I'm going, how the heck am I going to do that? Well, I couldn't figure it out, but he'd already equipped me. It was already inside of me. So he said, you just take the first step. And that's when things just dropped in place. Someone called and said, hey, did you know I can help you edit the book? Hey, did you know? And I'm going, where did all this come from? It was already there. I just needed to be patient and still. So that's, for me, is how I determine when it's silence. It's almost like, I heard a sermon once, a minister says, when we're on a plane and you can see, we're now approaching IAH in Houston, but we're going to have to hover before we land. And we're going, but I see the run. I'm ready to get off this plane, right? And the plane is hovering and hovering and hovering. And the minister says, but the pilot doesn't have to tell us why he's hovering. He knows they're not ready for us yet. They're preparing that landing. So when we do land, we can walk right on off and go about our business. So if we do it in a hurry, we go land, we could be walking out in the middle of the runway because there's another plane in our jetway. There could be something obstructive on the runway. So we're in a hurry. We go, oh, I can't wait. These people want to get off this plane. So I had to understand that hovering was preparing something for me. And I had to just be patient. And when it was time, the answer was there. And it was just take that first step. And then it dropped into place.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I really it's kind of like learning to let go, and then
Exactly. Exactly. But we don't want to really let go. We still got a little corner, a little piece we're trying to hold on. It's another good analogy when I speak to people, and I walk up to them and I say, I want to give you something, but you have something very precious, very valuable in your possession. And what do? You hold it tight like that in your fist, right? But if I want to put something in your hand, how can I put it in unless you do what? You have to open that up. So what happens to what you had held on? It has to fall out in order for me to put something in. So
yeah, that's something I really need to work on.
Well, I'm a work in progress still. I'll find my times. There are times I'm going, I guess I didn't let go all of that, huh? Okay, I need to let it go. And it's hard. We're human, because it's still in the back of our mind, and that worry wants to, kind of hover over us. But the greatest thing for me is I just have to take a deep breath. I look up to the skies and just go, okay, I have to learn to accept what's in my control, but most importantly, give me the wisdom to know if it's not, let it go. I can't make someone do something that they don't want to do themselves. So if it's that stage, I have to just trust if it's going to happen, it's going to happen in their timing, and they're preparing it. And if it doesn't, I just have to say it wasn't right. That was not meant for me to do.
Yeah. Kind of ending it, looking ahead, what new goals, projects are you excited about, and how do you plan to continue impacting, inspiring, and how can people get in touch with you, for speaking engagements, all of that?
Okay, great. Well, Actually, this is my very early stages, and again, I'm so thankful for you and the opportunity, because you are obviously a very seasoned veteran, impressive podcast that I've been listening to, and a good audience. So the first thing that this is early on in my beginnings is getting more podcasts and getting the word out. So thank you so very much for that. But I also have just recently took some training, and I am doing some more interviews, trying to get on radio and television. So I've got my fingers and toes crossed that those things will pan out as well. And also just beginning to do more speaking events in my local community, and having opportunities to get invitations, to join in various conferences and things of that nature. So I am just very open. I love just being able to pass any type of words of encouragement on to people. It's great to be able to be paid to do that, but when you've been blessed, you have to pass it on. And it's not about how much from a financial gain. It's about how many people you've encouraged to just make one slight change in their life that one day, then I've done my job. So the best way in order to get in touch with me, either to have questions about how to make a career change or to speak, would be my webpage, and that is www.urgyms.com. And let me spell that again, www.u as in United, R as in Robert, G as in George, E as in Edward, M Mary, S as in Sarah.com. And again, because the name of the book is Turning Stones into Gems, everyone is a true gem, and they have true value and purpose.
Yeah, I love that. And for all the audience out there, let's thank Sarah for coming on, and really inspiring, and you can love her energy and talking about faith and letting go. And be sure to give her socials a like and follow. And thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it as well. Continue to do a great job.